Welcome, Rune Weavers. This will be a special month here in January. I'm going to be adding additional videos which more broadly explore the pantheon and the heathen and Norse traditions, as well as the greater heathen cosmos. As we go deeper and deeper into the runes, this background knowledge will become even more important. But of course, this being the rune weaving class, don't worry, there's still going to be plenty of rune lore dropped in throughout. In this first video, we'll be exploring the origins and the layout of the heathen cosmos, from the mythic beginning to the realms of Yggdrasil. In the first video, we're going to just talk about the denizens living in Yggdrasil, and then in the second video, which I'll be uploading later today, we'll be doing a closer look at the realms and the runes together. So let us begin then at the beginning. Once before time and the world as we know it existed, there was the great gap where the worlds would form. It was called the Ginnungagap. In this gap flowed 12 rivers from a single fountain, Ymir, and they froze in the deep cold which existed before the birth of the light and fire. As the rivers froze, they formed the northerly world of ice, Niflheim. Niflheim is a world frozen in time and space, a land of cold, darkness, and hidden depths. Hel has created Helheim here, but that will come later. For now, there is only the cold and the ice. The rune of Niflheim, inevitably then, is Isa, a rune of perfect stillness and the present moment, shorn of past or present or future. Then came fire. When the heat of Muspelheim blazed from the south across the Ginnungagap, the frozen stillness of the world ceased before the active burning fire. The denizens of Muspelheim are no friendlier to humankind than the ice giants of Niflheim. They are called Thyrses, and they are fire demons, and their leader is Surt. What better rune then to call upon the magic of this space than Sawilo in its wildest, most chaotic form, the power of the active, burning sun, the unquenchable fire, the endless heat. As the forces of ice and fire met, rain fell, rime formed, and here the cow, Audhumbla, came into existence. Audhumbla is represented by the rune Uruz, and she is the first living creature. There came also Ymir, the father of all the frost giants, who drank Audhumla's milk for sustenance. There is no clear answer as to where Audhumbla came from, but she brought other life into being when she drank and licked away the salt and rind to reveal the ancestors of the gods and the giants. Like the rains of Uruz, then her presence brings life in its wake. But conflict came to this world. 3 gods were born of the ones she licked out of the ice: Odin, Vili, and Ve. They slew Ymir, perhaps to make the world, perhaps because he was evil, or simply because that was what had to be. The reasons matter less than what happened next. So much blood poured from his body that all the Jotun drowned it except for 2, and their descendants never forgot who killed their forefather. And that's why the frost giants, the Jotun, are often depicted as the enemy of the Asgardians. And when Ragnarok comes, they are seeking revenge for Ymir's death. Ymir's body became the world, and the Great Tree Yggdrasil grew out of it. His blood became the seas. The trees were made out of his hair. His skull became the sky, his brain the clouds, and his eyebrows Midgard. Odin, Vili, and Ve then traveled along their new creation. And here the names do get kind of strange, but there's two other gods that appear at this point in the stories. They came across two fallen trees, an ash and an elm. They shaped the first into Aska, the first man, and the elm into Embla, the first woman. And Ask and Embla were given 3 gifts. Odin gave them spirit, symbolized ever after by the rune Ansus. Honir, again, don't know where he came from, Honir gave to them understanding, and Loder gave to them senses and their outward form. It's always possible, whenever you're dealing with these sources, that names changed from place to place or time to time, and they got recorded differently in different places. I've also seen it argued that all 3 were, in fact, Odin, and simply Odin in 3 different aspects or 3 different forms. It's not entirely clear which is the answer there. Yggdrasil, then, is the world tree, the axis mundi on which all 9 worlds rest. Its rune is Aiwaz, and Aiwaz's shape even mirrors the sacred tree which forms the backbone of the heathen universe. There is no clear definition of what kind of tree Yggdrasil is. Many believe, and there are many compelling theories which state that it is a yew tree. However, it's also called an ash tree. It might even be an oak tree. What do I believe? Well, if you know me or you pay attention to my videos now or over time, you know how much tree magic I work. And as a result, I do a lot of work magically with Yggdrasil. And if I had to answer, if I were asked, seriously, Birch, what kind of tree is Yggdrasil? Is it oak, ash, yew? What is it? And my answer is a bit esoteric, you might say. So when you're looking at Yggdrasil from a spiritual perspective, it's not a tree like we have any trees here on Earth. It's, if you're familiar with Plato's theory of shadows in the cave, then you know that he was saying that there is an original form from which all other forms are copies. And I think that applies to Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil is the tree from which all treeness derives. You know, when we talk about the ash and the elm and Yggdrasil, you see how there is an essence of a tree that we look at and we say, oh, that's a tree. And if that comes from an original form of there is a tree that is the root of all trees, the last common ancestor of all trees, if you want to be scientific about it, then Yggdrasil is that tree. It's not an ash, it's not a yew, it's no kind of tree we have here. It is simply tree in its purest form. Now, many of the sacred oaks of the Germanic people had sacred springs at their roots, just like Yggdrasil had 3 sacred pools. One sacred pool is in the realm of Asgard, home to the Aesir, and this one is where the 3 Norns live. The Norns care for the tree. They take white mud and they rub it onto Yggdrasil's bark to restore its vitality and keep it alive. Dew from the tree continually falls into the pool of the Fates, renewing it and giving it life. This too falls under the power of Uruz. If you remember during my Uruz video, or if you haven't seen it yet, you can go back and hear this. Uruz refers oftentimes to the great water cycle. The water that gets evaporated goes into the air and travels as a cloud and falls back again to earth, renewing and bringing life in its wake. The Norns are, of course, best known for being keepers of fate and the runes. It was at their pool, that Odin hung himself for 9 days and 9 nights upon the tree Yggdrasil and drew up the runes from its waters. The 3 Norns are fate, word, Verhandi, being, and necessity, skuld. Their rune is Pethro. Pethro is a rune we haven't gotten to yet, but it's a very complex rune that deals with fate, chance, and things that have not yet come into being. And so naturally it does fall very closely under them, as does the goddess Frigg. Frigg works with the Norns very closely. Her magic spindle spins the stuff, and I mean stuff in the sense of weaving and yarn stuff, the stuff of fate. And she takes them to the Norns with her handmaidens, who then weave it into the fate of all living things, even the gods. This is why Frigg has so much power over fate and foresight and seeing, but more on that during her video later this month. The second root of Yggdrasil rests in Jotunheim, the realm of the Jotun. Here it falls into a well watched over by Ymir. There is a story of Odin and how he sacrificed his eye when he sought wisdom from Ymir's well. There is much primordial power to be gained from the Jotun, who are not always evil in the stories, and many adventures of the gods take place in Jotunheim. The third root of Yggdrasil is deep in Niflheim, where the dragon Nidhogg is continually devouring on it, weakening the tree and doing his best to kill it. Fortunately for Yggdrasil, the Norns' white mud keeps it nourished. Whenever you work with Aiwaz, the Yggdrasil rune, just know what you're tapping into with this tree. It is a power of a tree that's linked to the entire universe. It predates the universe, and it's born from the body of its second living being, Ymir. Life, death, runes, fate, it's all there on the Axis Mundi. And there's a poem that has survived, the Grimnismal poem, which tells of all the beings that are living here on the tree. There are countless serpents at the bottom. Nidhogg is one, the largest and greatest of the serpents, but there are countless others, including Goin and Moin, Graftvir, Grabak, and Grafvolud, Ofnir, and Svafnir. They are all gnawing and gnashing at its roots, trying to bring Yggdrasil down. An eagle, unnamed in the poem, and his name has since been lost. I haven't been able to find a record of his name anywhere. He lives at the top of the tree, and he's always at odds with the serpents. And this conflict between the eagle and the serpent is egged on by Ratatosk, the squirrel, who scurries up and down Yggdrasil's branches, passing insults between the serpents and the eagle. There are also 4 stags, representing the 4 winds, who nibble on its branches. The stags' names are Dane and Dvalin, Dunir and Ryathor. Dane and Dvalin, by the way, are the namesakes of 2 of Tolkien's dwarves. So, that wraps up Yggdrasil and the origins of the heathen universe. Stay tuned for the next video, which will discuss the 9 realms on the Great